Hey. This is Willie Cartwright with From Saved to Sane. Glad to have all of you here with me today. Those of you who are joining us live, please send me a message in the chat. Let me know that you're with us today. We're glad to have all of you, whether you're listening to us live or you're going to catch the replay or listen to it later. Whether you are on the East Coast, which now is about 7 o'clock, just after 7, or you're on the West Coast, where I am, close to where I am, and it is 4 o'clock p.m. And everything in between. Or if you are listening to us in another country and you're another part of the world and the time is completely different, we certainly appreciate that. We certainly appreciate having all of you, my loyal listeners, on here with us today. And if I haven't said it lately, I want to say I certainly appreciate the support that all of you give me, whether you agree with everything or agree with some of the things or agree with nothing, none of the things I say. I certainly appreciate all the support that you guys give me, the feedback and all of that. And so I don't ever want that to be taken lightly. Um, so let me begin the way I always begin with is by saying thank you to a couple of people. My lovely wife, Salima, who she just asked me what was the topic of today. I told her. She was kind of like, what? Okay. And we kind of had discussions around that. But yeah, so thank you for her and all of her support. And she's always supportive of me. And I certainly appreciate that. I could not do this without her and her support and some of her technical knowledge on being on here. Secondly, I'd like to thank Taisha Essick, who I think every time I come on here. Again, she is one of the people who's responsible for me having this, being in this space on this platform, this podcast. She was one of the earliest people to kind of find me out there. In this space and looked me up and so we've been friends ever since. So certainly appreciate her as well. But again, I want to say thank you to all of you out there. And before I get into this, let me promote my book. This is my most recent book. It's about 4 years old now, 5 years old now. From Saved to Sane, a journey away from Christianity and why Christianity has been detrimental to the African American community. Willie O. Cartwright. You can get this on Amazon, or you can send me a message, even through. If I can get a chance to put my email address on here, I will. But you can send me a message through this YouTube channel, through the podcast. Um, if you're interested in having again a signed copy, I will send you my Cash App, $19.99 for the book. We'll sign a copy for you and get it mailed to you once I get your address. So just want to do that. I am working on my newest book, um, just sort of in the early works of it. I've been talking to some people, so I don't want to reveal what is on, but I am working on a new book. I would guess that it probably come out sometime early next year, early 2027. But we are certainly working on it. So yeah, there is another book in the works, and so I appreciate the support that all of you guys are giving me on this book, and those who have been friends of mine for some many years ago. I have a couple of other books that are out there somewhere floating around, and so thank you guys for supporting me with those two books as well. Those books are not in this space or on this topic; they're on a couple of other topics. But yeah, so got all that out of the way. So let's talk today. Let's talk. I don't know how long we're going to go today on this topic. We'll go as long as there's interest or as long as I have something to say uh, on this topic. So today's topic: does the Abrahamic God hate black people? The God that we collectively worship, that we are so devout to, sometimes I wonder, and this is from a completely outside looking in, because so many, such a high percentage of my people support this God and everything that this God does or believe to have done, whether it's historical, or well, not almost historical, but whether it's written in the Bible or whether it's believed in today's time, what this God does. This topic came about for a couple of reasons. And, I always tell you how and why we got to this topic. So this topic came about by a couple of reasons. The first one is that I'm always thinking I am a somewhat of a historian by nature. I am certainly one who always try to examine the plight not only of all of us in this country, but in particularly people who look like me. And so, in doing so, I've become sort of a historian on our collective cultural, socioeconomic conditions. Um, one of my degrees is in finance. Another one of them is in I have an MBA. So I've sort of studied money, and along with that comes the social economics of it. And so I've studied some economics, some cultural stuff. And so I'm always thinking about where we are collectively as a people in relationship to social economics. Um, and in the recent years, and I would say over the last 10, 12 years or so, I've been aligning that with where we are religiously, spiritually, from a collective culture. And so to me, the two just don't gel, and there's a gap. And so I wanted to explore today um, if whether or not this God loves us, because if I'm looking at it from a purely a purely I won't say objective, but from a point a pragmatic point, I should say, from a purely pragmatic point, it would appear to me that giving all of the things that I was taught and that I once believed about this God and who this God was as an entity, when it comes to its relationship with African Americans in particularly, and you can throw in, any African descendants in the diaspora, because many of our conditions are the same across the world. It would appear to me that given the level of devoutness that we have exhibited toward this Abrahamic God, whatever, is not reciprocating the same thing in love for us, given our collective social economic condition and our history on this planet, especially over the last 400 plus years. And so I wanted to have this discussion and sort of talk about that. Uh, Another reason why I wanted to do this topic is because I've been telling you guys about this friend of mine for the last, I don't know, couple of months, and the condition that he's in. I won't rehash all of it, but just to make a long story short, this is the person I'm talking about, a friend of mine who has gone through a lot of turmoil in his life, including um, being thought that he was going to die according to the doctors, and his condition, had a stroke, had to come back from all of that, lost everything, been homeless multiple times, lost his family and everything else, almost like the Job story, at least he would liken himself to. And so we've had, and he's done this, um, but he now believes that all of this is some kind of a divinely orchestrated journey or assignment that he has from this Abrahamic God for him to go through all of this suffering and everything else. Um, this person happens to be a fraternity brother of mine, and that is important. That is contextually important to the rest of the story that I'm going to tell you. And so recently, as of I would say today, but there's been some rumblings of this sort of thing going on. At least that's what I have been able to pick out. So now this brother is now saying that all of us who are Divine Nine, those of you who are not familiar with Divine Nine, those are African American Greek letter organizations, which I am one. I am a member of one of those. There are nine historical African American Greek letter organizations. And in recent years, and we've had this discussion on here briefly, but in recent years, what you have seen is that there have been a handful of members in those organizations from each of those organizations, more than for the most part, who have come out and said that those members are worshiping false gods. They're worshiping Greek gods or Roman gods or They can't be part of these D9 or Greek letter organizations and also be true to their Christian faith or Christian beliefs or even Muslim. But from what I understand, the people that I know has all been Christians. And so um, this is more of an annoyance to most of the D9 people that I know. It is not something that we talk about or discuss other than sort of maybe to laugh at these individuals. Well, recently, today is the first time I noticed it, I saw it, but this particular guy, a friend of mine, he is now um, in that lane. He is now saying that the people in D9 organizations, blah, blah, blah. He says, but he was Dean of Pledges, which is a position in the organization when he was an undergrad, and that he is privy to certain information, no more than what the rest of us are privy to. But he is also saying that now those people in D9 organizations are worshiping false gods and so forth and so on, the whole discussion. And I reminded him that it was many of those friends of his who were members of the D9 organization that came to his rescue when he needed, not once, not twice, but multiple times to try to assist him and to get his life back together. And so I thought that it was um, I thought that it was a slap in the face that he was putting these kind of videos out. But hey, do you? Again, most D9 people that I know that see this stuff, it's not a big deal. But that also got me thinking that this person is now completely and totally consumed with this faith, with this religion, and with the worship of this Abrahamic God, to the point that he believes that it is all right and that it is part of the process, that he has lost his wife, his kids, his friends, and everything else that meant anything to him, as long as he is doing what he believes is to be right in the eyesight of this God and this entity and this deity. And so they got me to thinking, um, does this God, this Abrahamic God, really love the people who worship him? And more so, does he really love and care about the people that are the most devout to him? And that would be, at least in this country, African Americans. It is a general consensus um, that, and you can even look up the research. It is a statistical fact that African Americans are the most religiously devout demographic in this country. It is also a statistical fact that from a social-economic base and many other categories that we suffer the most of any demographic in this country. And when I talk about suffering, I'm talking about where we are in things like home ownership, wealth, savings, crime, education, nuclear homes, houses, depression, sickness, ill health, bad health, everything. So, as I always say, every good category we are at the bottom of, and every bad category we tend to be close to the top, if not the top. And so that would say to me that if we are this devout, then where is our blessings, collective blessings from this God? If we are this devout and this pious, then why are we collectively suffering more so than any other group? Um, and so there are a variety of responses that one get when this question is thrown out to African American believers. And many of you who are listening, you have heard of these responses, right? You've heard that we're being tested. You know, you've heard that that we are cursed. And I'm not just talking about non-black people or non-black people who are familiar with the Bible who would say we're cursed when they're talking about the story of Ham and Canaan and all of that. But I'm also talking about black people who believe that we are cursed. Um, where that comes from, I don't know. Why we would be cursed more so than any other demographic or any other race of people, I don't know. Especially when historically some of those other groups have committed way more atrocities than we have. So I don't know what's the level of what dictates how much we are cursed. So we get all kind of explanations and reasons as to why. And so today I wanted to ask and open to anybody who wants to respond, whether you believe it or not, whether you are a believer or not. Do you believe or do you think that this Abrahamic God dislikes us? Uh, when we look at the traits and characteristics of this God, there are a lot of human characteristics that have been bestowed upon him. And that makes sense because this is a God or an entity or a deity, like all of the rest of them, that has been created by humans. And so I am saying this in the sense of I am trying to get myself in the position, put myself in the position of believers. But anyway, so if you say that God can't hate, that's not true because there are many believers who will quote the Bible where it say God was a jealous God, He was a vengeful God, He was a hateful God. So we know that He can hate, and so given the collective condition of us as African Americans, would I be wrong or would you be wrong to ask the question? uh, does this God hate us? Uh, Going all the way back to slavery and the transatlantic slave trade, yes, there has been other there have been other groups of people who have been enslaved throughout the world. But there has never been another group that has been enslaved, chattel slavery, which is a different level, a more horrendous, a more atrocious level of slavery, and the things that was done to us. Um, it did not start off as it did not start off as chattel slavery. It did not start off based on our ethnicity, our race, but eventually that's what it turned into, especially in this country. And so for us to be taking from West Africa, Central Africa, across the Atlantic, gotten here, chattel slavery created. We as a people were bred here in this country for the sole purpose of creating additional slaves. All of that is unheard of. And then the things that happen to us from a physical standpoint are unheard of and unprecedented when we talk about other slavery, other situations of slavery, and then the time frame. And so we went from slavery to Jim Crow to segregation to what we see now, still in many of our communities, African Americans who are being treated as subservient, subjugated, and treated with cruelty, and treated as others, and in some cases, non-human. And so we're still experiencing all of that. Yet, uh, this God that we pack our churches on Sundays and Saturdays and Thursday and Wednesday nights. We pack the church houses and give our worship to and our other resources, including our financial resources to. It appears that this God has gone deaf and is silent in the suffering of our people, not only here in this country and on this continent, but on the continent of Africa and in other continents. Um, Other people of the diaspora will tell you that they experience mistreatment the same way we experience mistreatment here. In some cases, better, in some cases, worse. But we also know that there are people in the Caribbean and, of course, on the continent of Africa who experience the historical slavery that we did here in this country. Even in South America, countries like Brazil and Argentina and those other countries where African Americans were, or the descendants of African Americans were also treated cruelly and in a slave manner at the way that we were here in this country and the Caribbean islands. And so, again, it begs the question, does God really care about us as a collective group? So what is going on? So we have a Michael Lachey, 9714. Glad to have you. I don't know if this is your first time, but certainly appreciate having you here. I'm going to read your comments and we can chat. Just jumped on Michael Asher here. I was on a couple of months ago. I was a 16-year-old ex-Nation of Islam brother. You chatted. I remember you now. Glad to have you back, brother. Glad to have you back. I think I mentioned to you that my wife and her family were former Nation of, well, they were Muslim. I don't know if they were, I think they were in the Nation as well for a while when she was younger. And then she converted to Christianity when she was in her 20s and then converted her mother. Her father had passed away, but he passed away as a member of the nation. So I have some familiarity with the nations. Plus, I have cousins and friends who have been Muslim and also part of the Nation of Islam. And then finally, through all my studies, my religious studies, because one of my other degrees is in religious studies. And so I am familiar, but glad to have you, brother, as well. And so um, I would also say the same thing. When I say the Abrahamic God, it also includes Allah, the God of Muslims, as well as Jewish. All the same God to me, or at least that's what I've been come to believe. And so those individuals who are part of this country, there is no separation whether you are Muslim or Christian. If you're African American, you receive the same treatment. We know for a fact, historically, that there were people of Muslim faith that were taken from the continent in the transatlantic slave trade. As a matter of fact, Arab Muslims was the first group to enslave our people in Africa before European Christians did. So there is a long history there as well. Neo, what's going on? Neo Scary Matrix. Neo, you keep changing your name, but I like this Neo X Scary Matrix. What's going on? Glad to have you here. So yeah, I'm talking about whether or not the Abrahamic God hates us, hates Black people, given our history, given what's going on with us here in this country right now, and everything that we're going through. It just makes you wonder. We talked about slavery, current social economic conditions. Um, Look up any stats related to our social economic conditions in this country, and you will see that African Americans as a collective group are pretty much at the bottom, even below people who've come here recently, even below Hispanics, people from the Latino people, Hispanics, Arabs, Indian people, Asian people. We are still at the very bottom in most of these categories. Anything that's good, we're at the bottom. Anything that's bad, we're near the top. And so again, that makes you wonder. But every Sunday, we're packing in the churches, we're giving our money, we're giving our tithes. And I think one of the things that is that's somewhat frustrating to me when I talk to our people or I see our people, um, we are quick to give credit to this God for our individual um, uh, blessings, as we call them, but the things that happen in our life to us individually that are good in nature. Anything like getting a job or getting promoted or finding your keys or passing the test or signing an NFL contract or NBA contract or winning a game, whatever. We're quick to give God the credit to that. But then when we look at ourselves collectively, do we not ask the question, if God can help me find my keys, why can he not bring us collectively out of the collective poverty that we're in? Why are there so many of our people that are struggling, that are on the streets, the violence in our communities, so forth and so on? If this God is real, and this God is he who many believers say that he is, and this God is a God of love, and he loves us, then why we still see our communities the same? Why we go to our communities and we literally see a church on every corner, and in some streets we see multiple churches in our community. But yet our community is still struggling in every aspect whatsoever. So where's the love? So either this God either is not capable, is not willing, or is non-existent. And so you pick because I don't get it. Picture yourself as a father or a parent or in my case a husband. And I have a niece and a nephew, but I'm a husband to my wife, and even consider myself. I have a younger sister, and I've always been her big brother, looking out for her. There is no way that I can watch my wife, my niece, and my nephew, uh, my younger sister, even my mother when she was alive at the time, struggle if I can help them within reason, and if I'm not trying to teach, in the case of my niece and nephew, trying to teach them a life lesson, that if I can't help them and especially from God, because it's one thing to say, I can help you to a certain point, but even my resources are limited, and I don't want to get into a situation where now I'm suffering. That's one thing. But if I'm God, all knowing, all powerful, own everything, then why would I not help those who are most devout to me? Why would I not help these individuals? But yet I can pick and choose to help someone pass a test, or help someone get promotion on the job, or help someone to win a game. It makes no sense to me. Um, and so at the end of the day, for me, and this is just me because I'm in the position that I'm in, I believe what I believe. The reason why we don't hear from this God, or this God doesn't help us, is because this God doesn't exist. And so, for those of you out there who believe that this God exists, right? Then this God must hate you collectively, because this God is not doing anything for the collective group. Um, all these coincidental blessings that we individually, or you guys individually, receive does nothing for the collective. It has done nothing for the collective. Michael says their God is spending his time making sure that the right team is winning the Super Bowl, World Series, and NBA championship. Absolutely, but Michael, what's funny is that both teams pray to the same God, whether it's a football, basketball, baseball team, whatever. In most cases, they're all praying to the same God. So how does this God decide who wins? Um, and if Team A wins, then what does Team B say? Is it wasn't any cards for us, or God just didn't want to bless us today, or whatever? I mean, again, it makes no sense to me. Now it is different. Again, I'm a non-believer. I'm an atheist. But at least I can understand the athlete who prays simply to remain healthy throughout the game. I understand that, and I know that there are athletes who only pray that to say, okay, I just want to get through this game healthy, right, and may the best team win. But for those individuals who pray before the game that their team win, or even after the game, even if you don't pray that your team wins, but after you win, you give God all the credit. That is also saying, well, wait a minute, this same team are believers just like you are. So if God bless you to win, then what happened to the other team? Even though you didn't pray to win, you're still giving God all the credit that you won. So I don't. Are you better than your team from a spiritual standpoint? Do God love you more and your team more than He does the other team? And what happens the next week when your team loses? Does God favor or love that other team more? It's just a lot of times this stuff becomes fashionable habits that we fall into. Uh, we've always had athletes who have publicly um, showed their spirituality, or their faith, or their belief in God. I personally think that we're seeing more of it, and I think some of it is a pushback on a community, a society that's becoming more secular. I also believe that many of these young athletes who you hear and see espousing their religious beliefs publicly are being influenced and pushed by much older individuals in the faith who are saying to them, this is you have to show these younger people that you are a believer. And when you win, that's the best example of how great our God is and how Jesus is. And so I think these people are being influenced, a lot of these people. And then, as I've said about my friend earlier, and I think a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the basketball player. Since then, there's been another basketball player who I think is retired because he wants to continue to preach the word. Um, I think some of this, in some cases, is also mental illness. And I know that I'm going to get a lot of pushback. I'm going to get comments on this podcast when I say that. And I've always been reluctant to say that, except for in the most extreme situations where someone hears a voices in their head and they kill their kids. They hear God telling them to kill someone and they do that. Then that's an extreme situation. It's clearly there's some mental illness going on. But I think that you don't have to get to those levels in order for there to be, in my opinion, some mental illness going on. And the reason why I've been reluctant to say that is because 90% of the people that I know are Christians. And I would say that 90% of those individuals I would never consider to have a mental illness of any sort, no matter how ravenous they become about their faith and their religion, unless there's some objective extreme behavior that I see. But for being just really devout and going to church all the time and talking about the Bible all the time, whatever, I stopped short of saying there's some kind of mental illness. However, I think now that um, I am really beginning to believe that there is a level of mental illness in some of these people, and it's a spectrum, and it varies with some of these people. I mentioned about my friend earlier, my fraternity brother earlier, who now is sound like he's going to denounce the organization. I've said this to his face and to him and to others that I think that there's some mental illness going on, and others have said the same thing who have come in contact with him and engaged in conversations with him. These people have been very devout people, and they've also said the same. So I think even for devout religious people, there is a level that you can go above, and people think, well, maybe this person is not that stable, and this is caused by his faith, or this is an outpouring of his faith or his religious beliefs. So absolutely. Uh, Ralph Love 37. Trump is king, Trump is Lord, Trump is God, hail Satan, hail Trump. He came up from hell, HAIL, and put his spirit in Trump, hail Satan. Don't I'm not sure what you're saying or what that's about. Um, so I'm until that's explained more, I'll just assume that this is some sort of troll because I don't understand. I don't know if I'm not really sure about what you're saying. So I don't want to just totally dismiss it unless I get more clarity on what you're saying. But we certainly appreciate having you here on the show, having you to chime in, having you to listen in. So we certainly appreciate that. If you can be more concise or more explain what you're saying so that we can understand it better, or at least that I can understand it better, then I'll be happy to read it again and we can have that dialogue or that discussion on it. But on the topic of Trump, since you brought it up, I believe that in his behavior in relationship to Christians, and this is not just Christian nationalists or the evangelical right. There are at least a significant amount of African Americans or people who would otherwise be at a minimum moderate, um, if not left leaning or liberal, but moderate, who are being adversely affected to support or to do things against their best interest because of religion. Now, let me say this. I am not saying that if you are a Republican or a conservative, that you are somehow wrong in your stance. As an independent, there are positions that I am more conservative on, and then there are positions that I am more liberal on. So I consider myself to be an independent. However, I am not being led by my faith, um, and I'm closed off to all the other things I see, like I see many people, and to be specific, I see many African Americans who are doing that, or have done that. And then also there is a level of cultishness, if that's a word, um, based on Trump and the belief that he is somehow some divine, was sent here for some divine being and for some divine purpose, and then the relationship with Israel and all of that. Um, I don't mind getting into that and having that discussion. I have friends who are Jewish who I have pissed off from time to time. I have friends who are Jewish who I have not pissed off, who we can have these discussions with. I am not at all anti-Jewish or anti-Israel. I am pro-truth about everything, and so I understand all of this with my religious studies background, all of that. So I do understand it, and I just speak the truth. So yeah, so absolutely. But as we continue, we talk about God, whether or not this Abrahamic God hates black people. One of the things I hear a lot is that God is testing us, or testing the collective community. And so one thing that my wife said to me when we talked about this topic earlier was, why would an all-knowing God need to test you? Um, what is a test if you already know the answer? It's not a test. And so, and I said to my wife, I said, a lot of times African Americans say that God is testing them, or use this God is testing me as a rationale, an explanation to sort of explain their condition. There has to be a reason why I'm suffering the way I am. There has to be a reason why I'm going through what I'm going through. Oh, yeah, that reason is that God is testing me. He's testing me for whatever reason to make me a stronger person. He's testing me to see where my loyalty lies. And then my response to that, my reply to that, my pushback to that is, this is a all-knowing, all-powerful God. Why would he test you? Why would he have to test you? He knows the outcome. He knows how you're going to react. So I don't understand this whole "he is testing me" thing, and why Black people have sort of grabbed a hold of that and said he's testing me on that. Uh, Another point: if we're cursed because of some adverse behavior or something that we did wrong, as a collective people, or as ancestors did wrong. There are people who don't look like us. There are other races of people, other nationalities of people, other ethnicities of people who have committed way more atrocities than the collective of African people, African Americans, or African, in this case, African Americans. There's a history of documented atrocities that other groups have committed and have done so for many, many, many centuries. And those individuals don't seem to be struggling collectively the way we are. They don't seem to be in the negative positions the way we are collectively. And so, how is this fair? How is this right? How does a God say that they love you and that you are his people or whatever, and still treat you like this? That brings me to the next point. When you listen to groups like the Hebrew Israelites who believe that we are God, the original Jewish people, and that we're somehow God chosen people, um, that doesn't line up right. If you're God chosen people, you're God selected people, you're God favorite, but yet you're at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to everything. I don't want to be God's chosen people if it means that collectively we're going to struggle more, suffer more. If you look at the history of the Jewish community, they had the Holocaust, which was a horrendous, horrendous situation that should have never happened. However, if you fast forward, you look at the Jewish community across the globe, although they have their detractors. Again, atrocities have been committed against them. However, they seem to be doing collectively a whole lot better than what we are as African Americans. So either we are the chosen people, according to Hebrew Israelites, and if so, why are we in the condition that we're in? Or we're not, and they are the Jewish people who said that the Jewish people that we see, and they seem to be receiving more blessings than we are. So you can't have it both ways. And so that's a question that I asked to groups like the Hebrew Israelites, or to some African American Christians who believe that the Exodus story is about us, and that the entire Bible is really about us and our existence and our history, which is the furthest thing from the truth, which is absolutely not the truth. And I would debate with that with anybody, any day, anytime. That is not us. It's not about us. The Bible is not about us as a collective group. We like to see ourselves in that. And that brings me to the next point. Where I introduced, or I spoke to you guys a while ago about Dr. Cone. Dr. Cone was a historian, religious studies historian, died a couple of years ago. He wrote several books. One of the books he wrote was the Cross and the Lynching Tree, which talked about the relationship that African Americans have with Jesus Christ based on shared suffrage, right? The suffering. We collectively, we African Americans believe that we're closer to Jesus because we both share this strange sort of suffering. God went through the passion of the Christ, and those 3 days of the suffering that he did in the cross. And then what we've gone through as a collective group for 400 years or so, thereabout, there's some kind of connection there that makes us closer to Jesus and makes us want to be part of him, makes him see us differently. It's just hogwash. It's just BS. All of that is BS. But it's something that we put in our minds. It's something that we come up with as a collective group to sort of explain our collective conditions again as to why we're in the conditions that we are in. And then finally, the last point I'll make on this is that there are people out there, not just non-African Americans, but many African Americans who believe that slavery being introduced to us, slavery was the best thing that happened to us because it introduced us to Jesus Christ. I saved this for last because this is the most asinine thing that I've ever heard African Americans say. And I have literally heard African Americans say this, that if it wasn't for slavery, we wouldn't know Jesus Christ. Well, if this is true, then there is no other reason. This is the absolute best reason to believe that this God and this Jesus hates us. Because why would he put us, our people, our ancestors, and us through all of this just so he can introduce himself to us when he didn't have to do that to other groups of people to introduce them? If he's all powerful, all knowing, then why not introduce himself to us right there on the continent, void of slavery, void of enslavement, and all of the other atrocities that accompanied enslavement, right? So I think this is just crazy that people would say that. It is the worst type of hate. It is the worst type of indoctrination. It is powerful. It is insanity that people would say that, especially when it comes out of the mouths of people who look like me. Slavery there is no doubt whatsoever. Slavery was horrible. It was horrendous. It was atrocious. There is nothing good that came out of slavery. There is nothing that came out of slavery that you may think that's good that we could not have gotten or received or elevated to without slavery. So whether it's, we're in this country and we love being in this country, we could have came to this country anyway without slavery. Other immigrants came to this country of free will. We could have come as well. So it's not that. And who's to say, and those of you who've never visited the continent, let me tell you that there are some amazing cities and countries in Africa that are doing extremely well. But then so imagine with the intelligence and the wealth and everything that we have as a collective group here of African Americans, if that was instilled in Africa, how well the continent would be doing. Think about how much better the continent would be doing if it wasn't for imperialism and colonization, right? All of the resources that were stolen by Europeans and by Arabs. Imagine how much richer the continent would be. And so I just wanted to say that. Michael said, once you really study the NOI theology, Nation of Islam, for those of you who don't know what the NOI is, Nation of Islam, Allah is testing black people through white people as the devil. Now, CT, that is their theology. You have to do it in depth study. Okay, yep. So yeah, so all of this is, to me, whether it's coming from the Nation of Islam, whether it's coming from five percenters, whether it's coming from Hebrew Israelites, whether it's coming from African American Christians, whatever it is, we create in our mind and in our theology, our sub theology, we create defenses and excuses for why we're in the collective condition that we are in. And so that's what a lot of this comes from. We as human beings, we have to it's hard for us to accept that we don't know something. It's hard for us to accept that there is no reason that goes in our favor for anything that happens to us in life. That's when negative things happen, or bad quote unquote bad things happen to us. We always look for the silver lining or another rationale or another reason for this. It must be to teach us a lesson. It must be because there's something bigger that's going to happen. It must be because I'm being tested by God. Whatever it is, we always come up with something to justify our collective condition. Um, that is pretty much what I have today on all of this. I certainly appreciate all of the comments. Michael Ashley, Ralph Love, Neo X, glad to have you here. I'm certainly happy that all of you come in, and those of you who didn't make comments but certainly are on the live, and those of you who will listen to this at a later time, please leave me some comments. I certainly appreciate all of that. Like I said, I think I made an announcement earlier. I'm working on another book. As we get further along in the process, I will keep you updated on that and those things. What's going on with that? Other than that, there are no more comments, and there don't seem to be any other, at least typed comments. I certainly appreciate everybody, and I will see you in 2 weeks. We'll be back here with another exciting and informative topic. Until then, take care of yourself, stay safe, and we will see you in 2 weeks.